What is the absolutely nastiest thing that you've ever had to do? Good morning, I'm Pastor Phil. We're here at Emmanuel, and today we hear about what is a part of the life of Jesus that people speak about regularly, but is really kind of a gross thing that he does. Foot washing. I was doing a little reading in preparation for this morning, and I came to understand that foot washing was actually seen as something that wasn't done by the rank and file Jewish slave. This was held for the absolute worst of the worst, the slave that was very likely Gentile, or the one that just was your worst one, that they had to wash the feet of the people who came to visit. Now bear in mind, vehicles were primarily feet during this time. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into our text. And we actually begin John 13 today. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that his Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garment, took a towel and girded himself. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, are you washing my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this. Peter said to him, You shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, If I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet also, or only, but also my hands and my head. Jesus said to him, He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, You are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, Do you know what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. So Jesus washes his disciples' feet. Chapter 13 of John does a couple things for us that's worth noting. The first is that it begins the second section of John that really, a driving theme of it is actually purity, cleansing, that kind of thing. And we hear here Jesus setting this up. And now tomorrow we're going to hear about that continued cleansing of the disciples as Judas is sent away. But for today, we hear Jesus going through and cleansing his disciples by washing their feet. And I want to draw attention to two things specifically. The first is the servant nature of what Jesus did. Jesus was not looking to intentionally exalt himself. He wasn't looking to have the best of anything. Instead, what we see him doing is washing the feet of his disciples, serving them. He is taking what is the most lowly position amongst the slaves, making it his own, and caring for them. Now, inside of our own lives, we're supposed to be doing this. Jesus said it specifically in our gospel text. And the thing that's hard is to contemplate where we would be doing this, how we should be doing this, and what it looks like. You know, that's a question that requires some context, or all of those are questions that require some context in order to be able to answer them. But as a general rule, if we look at those three ideas and think of what Jesus did and how he did it, we're never ever going to go wrong. We hear Jesus defend the less fortunate, and so we should. We hear Jesus support the government over him in terms of them being placed there. And I'm thinking specifically of the Matthew text that I preached on yesterday. And we should do this as well, not only because Paul in Romans reminds us of this, and Jesus himself reminds us of the government being placed over us, but it's for our own good and welfare. At the same time, we have other responsibilities, and those responsibilities really become shaped by our faith. Who are you voting for? What are you trying to do for your society around you? What are those values that really you want to communicate? And those things become the actions and attitudes that really become seen in that servant attitude. Now, the second thing that I want to draw into is one that is going to make every single one of us a little bit uncomfortable, and rightly so. Jesus washed his disciples' feet. He acknowledged that one of them was going to betray him, but he washed every single one of them. Now, I don't know about you, but I can think of many places where I myself have betrayed Jesus. I'm not the father that I should be. I'm not the husband that I should be. I'm definitely not the pastor that I ought to be. And as you look at the different offices inside of your life, you're going to see places where you have in fact betrayed the Lord. If you say you haven't, say look harder. The reality is all of us have failed God in one way or the other. And as we look at Jesus going through and washing Judas's feet, we have the joy of knowing even in our failure that Jesus still cleanses us. In our lives, though, it becomes a little bit uncomfortable because we have to stop and contemplate the reality that as Jesus did this and we follow him, so we have to do that. Which means that, that person that whenever you think of them and whenever you see them, they just kind of, they're aggravating. It means that you have to serve them and wash their feet. Not literally, but you have to be intentionally looking to help them. We don't get to choose who we serve and who we don't. Jesus served all of his disciples. He cleansed them all. He washed all their feet. Now, there's a cleansing yet to come, and we'll hear about that tomorrow and then again in a few days as Jesus is upon the cross. But as we move into the second section of John, I want to draw your attention to that theme and ask you first, what has Jesus done for you? And second, where are you following him? Because as Jesus cleanses us, we follow him inside of that grace that we receive through him. I pray that God blesses each and every one of you. I look forward to seeing you again as we continue on to the book of John. I pray that God blesses you, and I will see you tomorrow.